Call Teamsters Local 200 at 414-771-6363 or visit us at www.teamsterslocal200.com or on Facebook. Make a difference. Union yes.
More power, more fight, the most heart. Gingras, Thompson & Walks is more than a law firm. We're family. We believe in doing our best to help people in need and right the wrong that's occurred. For more than 35 years, we've helped thousands of clients across the state of Wisconsin get the justice they deserve. Our proven track record of success isn't based solely on our knowledge of the judicial system. Rather, we make it our priority to get to know our clients and their cases so we can best represent them. Gingras, Thompson & Walks. Find us online at gtwlawyers.com.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening.
3, 2, 1.
Now live from the heart of liberal Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Best friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Now here are your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, a abbreviated edition. Dominic, the House impeachment Senate trial, more accurately, Senate trial of Donald J. Trump. Well, it's gone to dinner break, so apparently we're up, my little buddy.
The dinner entertainment, you can join us as well at 844-967-2789.
Now, Dominic, let's talk logistics with our fair audience, because everybody's wondering, will this ever end? Will there be never-ending witnesses? I doubt it. I think this will wrap up tomorrow, right in the heart of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show.
I think it continues, Crudy. I think it goes on. I think we get witnesses. I don't think this is over.
Oh, I think we get a rapid, efficient acquittal / vindication. You know, the president wants to wrap this up nicely before Super Bowl Sunday. And, of course, more importantly, the State of the Union address on Tuesday. And more important than that, the 3 years in business party, Talk 101.7 FM, man. We're lighting it up in Milwaukee. We invite you all to come down. Free beer for all our friends of adult drinking age.
At the Roman Coin.
At the Roman Coin. Yeah, we got our sound talent, our voice talent right here. So, anyways, Dom, I unfortunately think tomorrow,
Regano's Roman Coin.
Apparently, the Senate trial will include closing statements, if you will, sort of last pleas. Of course, the House impeachment managers want witnesses, maybe some evidence. The Republicans, much less so. But tomorrow, about 4 hours of additional debate. Now, predicated on how they've been doing it, Dom, one must think they're going to go, 2 hours? And then a brief break, maybe a 15-minuter. And then 2 more hours. They'll start at noon, so that means about 4:15, all the statements will wrap up. And then the question, the biggest question perhaps of our lifetime, Dominic, will there be a real trial? Will there be witnesses? Or will it go as Crudy expects? Will the Republicans, against all reason and evidence, vote rapidly to acquit Donald J. Trump?
Will the Republicans, by their vote, endorse a monarchy in the United States of America? That is the question.
And perhaps, Tom, really, if it could get very interesting. Let's say there are 3 Republican votes, right? Let's say you got Murkowski. Let's say you get Susan Collins. Let's say you got Mitt Romney. And let's say that, Joe Manchin and the guy from Alabama, who is that, Doug Jones? Let's assume they don't turn on their own party, Dom. Then it's 50-50. On a coin flip, my understanding, the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, he would have the deciding vote to cast. First of all, will we see that sort of high drama?
I tell you what, I'd like to see a coin flip, but only if Hillary Clinton was involved, because she's really good at winning those coin flipping contests.
Well, that's mostly for delegates in Iowa. We'll talk about that on Monday night when we're in Iowa, Dom. But first and foremost, 50-50, will it be Justice Roberts casting the deciding vote? I'd call it 3-1 against, but what do you think, Tom?
No, I think there will be enough Republicans. I'm a hopeful kind of guy, Curdy, because as I mentioned, otherwise the option is that, yes, they endorse Dershowitz's position. They endorse Donald Trump being able to do anything he pleases with any money that's to be distributed by the executive branch, approved by Congress, if he deems it to be, number one, in the national interest. And, of course, his election is in the national interest. As I heard described
in his own opinion,
today,
always will be.
As I heard it described today, then what's to stop the president from not sending disaster relief to a state after a terrible hurricane, for
Puerto
example,
Rico, Florida, maybe?
Until the governor and the folks in that state endorse his presidential campaign. That is apparently okay based on what the Trump attorneys have laid before us. And that is never, obviously that is not okay. I just don't see how. I know why they want to. I just don't know how they can.
Oh, you fake news media, you. Dershowitz would say you've greatly exaggerated his position.
No.
But we want to hear from the audience. You know, we hear from ourselves. I live in my own head, Dom, and sometimes in yours. 844-967-2789.
Better in my head than in my bed. Kurt from Madison, you are next. Thanks for calling today. Kurt, what do you got for us?
Hey, Kurt.
Well, I hate to be the downer here, but I've listened
Okay,
to
Debbie
all
Downer,
of
lay it on
the-
us. I'm sorry,
Well,
say it
first
again.
of all, I was fortunate to grow up with a father who was an attorney, surrounded by friends who are attorneys. And when I listen to the Republican attorneys, they speak in hyperbole. They do not put not one single article as evidence to prove their point. They say things like stealing votes. There's no votes that have been stolen. The articles of impeachment are very clear. It was he asked for a favor in return for something. They showed the parallels between Nixon and Clinton. I tell you what, there's only one person that is responsible for this complete debacle, fiasco, and personally the downfall of the United States, and that's Moscow Mitch. And Moscow Mitch has a very tight grip on all of his little droids that follow him. So I think you're being grossly optimistic that
Kurt, not I.
Get three Republicans to step over the line. This is going to be a whitewash. He's going to get away with it.
Okay, your prediction, you're taking the 3-1 against, you're taking the money line. Kurt, you're saying no witnesses. Rapid acquittal, quote unquote, of the president.
Absolutely.
You think they'll vote by what? You think it'll be 4:20 or 4:30 when they wrap things up?
Well, Schiff outlined it very clearly more than once when the questions came forward. He says it's abundantly obvious why they won't put forward the people who can clear Trump's name.
Right, they could exonerate him, and they do not bring him forward.
That's right. So right there, if you're an impartial person, that just, I'm sorry, that it slides me into, you're hiding something. There's guilt involved here. And anybody that used their rational, logical senses would say, why do you find it so important to withhold these witnesses? What are you afraid of? If he's so damn innocent, then these guys should, as Schiff would, they'd be running forward to saying, oh yeah, Trump did nothing wrong. Everything's great and wonderful in the world. But they know that isn't the case. So,
Kurt, going to cut you short there. We've been joined by a friend. We'll let her get settled. Maggie Dawn at the Resistance, our legal eagle. Lots of other callers, and we want to get to a few more right away. 844-967-2789. Next up, I believe, is Keith from the Great Southeast. Keith, welcome to the show. How can we help you?
Hey, Keith.
Well, Dom Truth and Maggie Dawn, yeah. Well, I think the prediction that Crute made it's not going to go well tomorrow. Unfortunately, even with all the riffraff that we heard today out of the right wingers, it's just more of the same. I hate to say it, but I don't think we're going to get witnesses. I hope and pray that
Keith,
we do, but I don't think they
so.
will.
As do I. I mean, I think that would be great radio and television. I think it'd be a ratings machine. But Keith, I am actually rooting against witnesses. A, because this has been quite disruptive to the Devil's Advocates format. But above and beyond that, B, I think it will be so obvious to the American people, depending on who's polling. I've seen 70% of Republicans want to hear from Bolton, 75% of the public at large. I've seen some polling like over 80%, Keith. Yeah. The people want witnesses. The Republicans want no part of that. And I think there will be electoral hell to pay if they wrap this up as a sham trial. And I think Adam Schiff made a great point. Go back to work for a week. We'll depose the witnesses, and we'll come back and we'll limit the time frame of the witnesses. And these Republicans, when they, cry wolf, oh, we can't have witnesses. Oh, they don't let us. They can call Hunter Biden with 51 votes anytime they freaking want to, man. They lie. They're lying.
Yeah, that's what the cover-up's all about. All the way from Barr when he did his 17-page review of how he's going to bow down to the chosen one. It's more of the same. I expect it from Mitch the cover-up or Midnight Mitch, whatever we're going to call him this day. I expect nothing less from him.
Keith, appreciate your call. Welcome, Maggie Dawn of the Resistance. Our legal eagle. Welcome to the show, Maggie.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Hey, Maggie. Good. Thanks for joining us again.
It feels so good to have you back in the studios, Maggie. Obviously, you've been paying attention. What do you think of?
Well, it's what I shared with you guys a couple days ago. Even the close that we heard right before the break just enrages me. I think Dems just have to say, all right, fine, we'll put Hunter and Joe and Adam Schiff on the stand. You guys can ask him questions for his life. But after that, we get Bolton, Mulvaney, and Pompeo. And just call the bluff. There's no, the weird thing is there's no your witnesses and our witnesses. The Senate,
right.
The Senate is a jury. It should be whatever witnesses have information to allow the country and the Senate to understand what's going on.
Maggie, I'm not mischaracterizing when I say that Republicans with 51 simple votes, and they've got a majority of 53, they could call Hunter Biden Monday morning, could they not?
Yeah, this was the point I made with you guys a couple days ago. This idea that, the Dems aren't giving the White House the witnesses it wants is a completely, totally false premise. I'm going to call it a lie. The Republicans can call as witnesses whomever they want. They could have called Hunter and Joe Biden and Adam Schiff on day one of the trial. Mitch McConnell and the Republicans control the rules. And I just want to be clear. I heard, I think you, Mike, mentioned that that there seems to be a presupposition that Justice Roberts would actually cast a tie-breaking vote. That is unclear under constitutional jurisprudence that he actually has that power. Most people think Roberts would be disinclined to do so. So it's just something to keep in mind. Most legal scholars are saying that for there to be witnesses, the Dems have to get 51 votes. And if it's tied, it ain't happening. And
no one has counted the 51st vote. I mean, you might have 3 Republicans, but if
you don't have
50-50, you're saying tie goes to the runner?
Tie goes to Trump. Tie goes to the president. That is effectively the burden. That's what.
But is there any jurisprudence that would indicate that as well? I mean, we're in uncharted territory if this happens.
This is a really, again, geez, Dom, you and the good questions. This is a very nuanced question, right? And this has to do with the seriousness of removal from office and effectively the burden of proof. And so you have to actually get it by a majority. And there's nothing that expressly grants the Chief Justice, and the term that is used in the Constitution is, quote, presiding over the trial. There's nothing that confers him explicitly that power to cast the vote. And so most scholars believe that the most appropriate approach is that he not do so. It's not supposed to be the judiciary wading into this process. It's a political process in front of a political body. But again, there's no us and them or your witnesses. It's any witness that the Senate wants to bring. And right now, Republicans control all witnesses. If they want Hunter, they get Hunter. They want Joe, they get Joe. They want Adam Schiff, they got him.
Please, God, let him call Adam Schiff.
Oh, I'd love
844-967-2789. We got lots of people want to cast their opinions here before the court of opinion here on the Devil's Advocate / Maggie Dawn of the Resistance as we transition. Darren from Madison, you're next. Welcome. What's your thought?
I just want to know this. Like, if this happens and this goes through where he is acquitted completely, with the cover-up continues and...
Predictably, by about 4:30, 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, but please continue, Darren.
If this happens, do you see this Constitution... the Constitution that we have written in place just being basically dead, because with the abuse of power, it just basically says that the executive branch, he can do whatever he wants. Do you see that? I don't know. I just don't understand how you can continue to have a strong democracy when you have a basis.
Absolutely, Darren, you make a great point. You cannot have a strong democracy. This increases the presidency to almost a monarch. What is the point of laws as far as when aid must get to allies if the president can, at his whim, decide that, it's best interest for America if I'm elected, and it's best for me to get elected. If I use this aid as levers against my political opponents, that's now all entirely okay. And I just don't know how any Republican can actually go along with that premise.
One of the things that question brings up is this, and it's sort of this unspoken but accepted premise in modern politics, particularly in the post-Trump era, and that is that the country and the Trump supporters and these senators basically have resigned the high ground to Democrats, and the survival of our constitutional republic, they are basically conceding, is only being shepherded forward by liberals, progressives, and Democrats. We're the ones that don't try to suppress votes. We're the ones that believe in equity and that black folks and women folks and LGBTQ folks actually have rights that are just as valid and worthy as anyone else's. And so that to me is it really is set up. Now there's two standards of conduct. There's the conduct standards for Republicans, which is by the definitions put forward by Professor Dershowitz and other of Trump's attorneys over the last 3 days. It is literally like, if he just thinks that it might be good for the country, it's fine. That's not what the Constitution says. And now there's a different standard for Democrats that's much higher. Think about the Al Frankens. He took an inappropriate picture. Our president has admitted on a hot mic to doing much worse. It's very different, and I think it will be the burden of Democrats, progressives, and liberals to protect our democracy as best we can. And
hell, Maggie, Dom and I have done worse than Al Franken did.
And when you start to let you do it, you can do anything.
Well, I didn't say worse than Trump. 844-967-2789. Lots of people want a piece of our pal Maggie Dawn. Sam from Waukesha, you're next. Say hi to Maggie Dawn.
Hi, Maggie.
What's up, Sam?
I'm a longtime listener and a first-time caller. And what I would like to know is, what do we call this guy when he gets acquitted? Sire, Emperor,
Your Excellency, Your Trumpness.
Yeah, and with all the little Trumpkins around him, I don't get it. So I've been watching this thing from the beginning, and they keep repeating themselves. Both sides, actually. Once in a while, it gets twisted a little bit, but what the lawyers are saying doesn't make any sense to me. It sounds like when adults are talking on the old Peanuts cartoons.
Wah, 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 wah.
I don't get it. It's way over my head.
Well, always keep in mind that we can just give Trump a new moniker. Acquitted but guilty is sin. I mean, every criminal defense lawyer in the country knows this. You get an acquittal, that doesn't mean that the person's innocent of what they've been accused of. And the record,
I got one.
Yeah, go for it, Mike.
Can we call him the Juice? He's orange, and he's like OJ.
The juice.
Because the only way he's getting off is through jury nullification.
Well, and Dershowitz was a lawyer for OJ, too, so that fits on a number of fronts.
And Epstein and a few others.
Right.
844-967-2789. People reacting to the break in the Senate impeachment trial of Donald J. Trump. The question's going to go on for a couple more hours this evening. And then tomorrow, 4 hours of wrap-up. And then the most important vote perhaps in American history, and it'll be right here on the radio. Talk 92.7 FM, Talk 1017 FM in Milwaukee. Welcome, Greg from Madison. What do you got for us?
Hi, guys. Hi, Maggie.
Hey, guys.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on in these Republican senators' minds, when they hear this stuff and how they just dismiss it. And I was trying to equate it to some other instance, and I don't know if it's valid or not, but I remember back when the OJ trial, and most people would say he was guilty of doing it, yet when the not guilty verdict was read, there was cheers from one side and astonishment from the other. And most people knew that he was guilty, but yet that one group still cheered for his being innocent, being freed, not being convicted.
Well, I think there was. Don't you think, Greg, that there's a little bit of a different dynamic was operating in the O.J. Simpson trial, and that is that I think a lot of the folks in the black community felt like the O.J. trial was not really only about O.J. and his victims, but that they were really taking on and cheering for a black man beating the criminal justice system. That most people thought, yeah, he did it, but finally one of us gets off. I think that's what the cheering was about. I don't think most people held a genuine belief that he didn't do it. That sort of race and socioeconomic power dynamics, they're not at play here. Trump he's the 0.1% of the 1%, right? Silver spoon in his mouth. Different dynamics here.
I guess you're right, but I just thought, well, maybe the Republican Party was in a sense kind of like those people that were cheering for OJ, and they were on his side no matter what he did or what did or
they'll be cheering, Greg.
Or the
they'll be cheering.
Yay kleptocracy! Yay corruption!
It just boggles my mind, and I can't wrap my head around it. But I'm sure he's going to be acquitted, and I hate to see what happens after, because I mean, what happens in the next? Let's say he wins. Let's say he wins in 20, at the election.
Well, I'm going to look at some real estate north of the.
Well, then, Greg, then he's going to get impeached again. Greg, come on. Let's just look at this a couple of different ways. Number one, OJ may have gotten off in that regard, but he was convicted in the civil case. He lost his ass in very similar circumstances. Either if Trump, which I don't think will happen, gets reelected, there are still court cases winding their way through. We are going to see all the little different business entities of all his little buddies overseas that he's been using to fund his real estate empire, let's call it. So there will be some comeuppance, and that's really one of the questions that I think the managers laid out in front of the senators so very well in the last few days. Do you want to wait for the next shoe to drop, or just bring in the right-winger Bolton, which all you hawks, you love this man until about 2 days ago, and see what he has to say about it?
Well, I got a couple things to say. First and foremost, Bolton, left-wing tool. Above and beyond that,
hippie.
Dom, if Trump is reelected, you won't have to worry about the next impeachment trial because the brown shirts will march us off to the internment camps.
They'll never take me alive, Curdy.
One of the things I wanted to do before we'll probably have at least maybe another 20 minutes or so, was just give you all and your excellent listeners my prediction for how this is going to go.
Please, all right, let's hear it. Maggie, all right, before you go, we've been talking about this. I think there's going to be witnesses. Curdy says no. Most callers say no. What do you think?
So I'm going to set it up and tease it out. I'll eventually get to the answer, okay?
You're a great radio host.
But no teasing. No teasing. I can't take it.
Come on, Mike. That's it's one of the arrows in my quiver. What I think is really important to note here is that the Republicans that are most likely to vote for witnesses, those three, have been pretty vocal about being open to that for quite some time. if you think about the politics that is motivating all of the other Republicans, so 51 of them, it is perfect exchange of their own value system, conservative ideals, for simply surviving their next election cycle. They're too afraid of Trump to take him on. They know, and you watch the attacks against Mitt Romney on Fox News, Breitbart, and other outlets, they know that that is promised for them. An unrelenting smear campaign coordinated with Fox News and all these other completely fringe nut job news outlets. And so if you are going to see a defection, like the three that are out there. But if you were going to see that fourth defection, it wouldn't be one defector. It would be a number of Republicans. In other words, that individual would try to convince at least 2 or 3 other Republicans that may be in safer states to stand up with them.
I am Spartacus.
That's right. So that, in other words, there's cover in numbers. You don't want to be, listen, and the Senate no longer has a John McCain who doesn't mind being that last vote and a walk out onto the Senate floor and thumbs down, right? Which he cast the deciding vote on the ACA repeal. So I think you would be seeing rumblings or at least some leaks that, that Mitch McConnell's worried that there might be a group of defectors, and you're not hearing a whisper of that. And what that means is that they are not going to break ranks. I think you might end up with Romney as the cheese that stands alone voting for it. Because for Murkowski and Collins, those are women who have yet to show actual chutzpah under the Trump administration. These women who always talked about their values and principles have now traded them all away.
We're probably going to lose Joe Manchin along the way, the so-called Democrat. Let me ask you,
but he was saying, Manchin was saying today it's time for witnesses, just for the record.
Theoretically, any chance that they allow them? No chance. Doesn't matter what question I'm going to ask.
No,
there's no chance.
There will not be witnesses. And part of this...
No, that wasn't the question.
Okay,
my bad.
Here
was the question. Secret ballot. Is that feasible?
No.
51 votes would allow for a secret ballot. They could all vote their conscience.
No,
secret
the president.
Ballot. Come on.
The president wouldn't allow it. He'd tell McConnell no, because they need to know who to take down. They want that to be public. I mean, for anybody,
let me try a different variation.
Well, let's explore it, right? For anybody that is trading all of their conservative principles and morals away for the next election cycle, the whole point is that their vote be on the record. You'd never even get close to 50. It just wouldn't happen.
I think you'd have 75. But setting that aside, what if the proposal comes out tomorrow? One witness, John Bolton, closed session.
No, doesn't happen.
They don't even offer a closed session.
No. There's no permutation here where witnesses happen. It's just not going to happen. And I think at best, they get a tie vote. At best. It could go down literally 53 votes against to, 47-4.
We don't do math on the radio. Maggie Dawn.
Yeah, not while I'm talking. It's very tricky.
Folks, you're listening to the Devil's Advocates. Technically now it is the Dawn of the Resistance with Maggie Dawn. We are now in your time. Thank you for allowing us to hang out with you on the radio, Maggie. A couple of things I heard. Adam Schiff is just an awesome orator. I mean, I really enjoy listening to him, and he comes up, no notes in hands, just lighting people up. And he brought up today a very interesting fact, and I guess this was alluded to over the last couple of days, but today, Donald Trump had attorneys in court challenging a congressional subpoena, I believe related to his tax returns, but challenging the legitimacy of a congressional subpoena. And in that courtroom today, as Adam Schiff said on the floor of the Senate, the judge asked the attorneys representing the administration, if this subpoena is not valid, what is then Congress's remedy to challenge the executive branch? And the president's attorneys said
impeachment.
Impeachment.
Yeah. Listen,
and they're in there today or they're this week
you
saying
can't impeach.
You cannot impeach. You
For
must use the
obstructing
court
Congress,
for
yes.
the remedy. I mean, of course, it's a circular argument, and I don't know. Again,
It's actually not circular. It's just totally opposite arguments. It's situational ethics.
Is that
what it
unethical? Nancy Pelosi, let me read a quote from Pelosi, the speaker, today.
We have some sound from her today as well.
Well, do we? Let's play the sound. I don't do a good Nancy Pelosi voice. Fancy Brian, if you got it.
As opposed to all those other great voices you do, Crudy.
I'm getting better at Bernie. Wait till he's the president. I'll be perfect.
Fancy Brian, thanks for pulling these. Let's start with cut number 31, Nancy Pelosi today. And if we missed any of these, Crudy, you can jump in and let us know what we didn't know.
I'm very proud of our managers. We believe that they have been magnificent custodians of the Constitution by dint of their content, their presentation, their historic perspective, and their tone.
Let's keep going.
We did our job. We had a strong case for impeachment of the President of the United States. No matter what the senators have the courage or not to do, he will be impeached forever. We believe our argument was strong enough for removal. But we do believe if there's more truth for the American people to know, it is important for them to know.
Speaker Pelosi just winding up. Let's keep going, Brian.
I just pray that the senators will have the courage and the ability to handle the truth instead of blocking the truth from themselves in the decision and from the American people.
Oh, they can't handle the truth. We know who ordered the code red. Let's keep going. A couple more from Speaker Pelosi.
The president's team is there to dismantle the Constitution of the United States. And some of them are even lawyers.
And the next one?
Well, he will not be acquitted. You cannot be acquitted if you don't have a trial. And you don't have a trial if you don't have witnesses and documentation.
But, Crudy, I guess the point was, as she led into it, some of these are lawyers. They should know better.
She went on to say, imagine that you would say ever of any president, no matter who he or she is or whatever party, if the president thinks that his or her presidency is good for the country, then any action is justified, including encouraging a foreign government to have an impact on our elections. Pelosi went on to say, that is exactly what our founders were opposed to, and they feared. I don't think they made the case. I think they disgraced themselves terribly in terms of their violation of what our Constitution is about and what a president's behavior should be. Disgraced themselves, she went on later, according to the reporting, and suggested perhaps disbarment for Trump's counsel. What do you think? Maggie, you're the attorney on the panel. What do you think? Disbarment too harsh?
Wow. In my opinion, no. They're lying to a tribunal in the most important moment, in our country's most recent history.
Yeah, but how do you try their motives or, what's going on between their ears?
Well, the words that came out of their mouth.
If what they said is a lie, that is, you can be disciplined under any state's attorney regulatory authority. But I really think, what's sad to me is that we're potentially in the last 24-hour stretch, right? John Bolton, calling John Bolton.
Where's John?
Just come out. You don't need a subpoena to get in front of a microphone and tell the world what you know.
We got a microphone. Bolton? John, 844-967-2789. We'll put you to the top of the list, John Bolton. Call us now.
Yeah, right? And equally so, Joe Biden, can you imagine all of the energy he would drill up if he came out onto stage today and went with his kid, with Hunter, and said, Donald Trump, we accept. We're ready to show up and testify. We did nothing wrong. Bad decision on his part, but absolutely nothing wrong. We'll sit for as long as your Republican senators want to ask us questions. Bring it on.
Call the bluff.
Absolutely. Come on. Joe Biden, if you're listening, Joe Biden, someone from Biden's campaign that works in a local office in Milwaukee, call him and tell him to do this.
I think he's stumping in Iowa currently. Very busy, the vice president. 844-967.
Microphones in Iowa, right?
I could do that.
The actual vice president, the current sitting vice president, Mike Pence. You know, there's a Trump rally in Des Moines tonight, and Pence is on the road, as is nearly the entire cabinet. It's going to be like a Fox show with Kiefer Sutherland. You know, if something bad happens in Des Moines tonight, we would have a headless government like 12 to 15 places deep. Nancy Pelosi would be president.
844-967-2789. Pete from Milwaukee, you are next. Thanks for calling, Pete. What do you got for us?
Hey, Pete.
Well, it scares me a little bit because it just seems like they're setting up for a government by the rich and powerful, and that they're going to have like a premier or something, and that he can't do anything wrong, and we can't impeach him, and we can't do this, and we can't do that, and it's just going to be whatever they say. The rules don't matter because they are lying in this trial like there's no tomorrow. They're setting this all up. It sounds to me just like they're cooperating and they're trying to get this thing so that this guy is royalty, or anyone that they get in there is royalty. And I don't like it one bit. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel, but I can't stand it.
I can't wait, Pete, until Trump passes the throne to, Trump Jr. or maybe Ivanka.
Yeah, that's
a multi-generational dynasty, reign of terror, if you will.
Well, it's just sad. But Hakeem Jeffries, did you hear his statement about what the Senate Republicans have presented as a defense for Trump?
What did he say, Pete?
He said, all you guys, the greatest deliberative body in the world, and all you can come up with is conspiracy theories, concerning CrowdStrike and,
We know, Pete. We know, brother. At one point during the proceedings today, a question came from Wisconsin's own Senator Ron Johnson. And I'm thinking, please let Adam Schiff take this one. Please let Adam Schiff take this one. And Schiff took it. And he just started lambasting Rojo because, of course, Rojo's really going after the identity of the whistleblower. That was the nature of his question. I mean, hell, Chief Justice Roberts even blocked Rand Paul from exposing the name of the whistleblower during the Senate testimony yesterday, I believe. But Ron basically was taking another crack at it. And I thought Adam Schiff was masterful. Just lit Ron up and talked about the days when Republicans used to care about whistleblowers, and maybe we as a nation might want people to tell on other people that are criminally corrupt. But what a quaint notion.
Well, what is the point of a whistleblower to report wrongdoing if the wrongdoing is done with the intent of the goodwill of the interest of the American people, and of course the person's own electoral chances, Maggie?
Makes perfect sense.
I mean, there is no whistleblower ever to be needed and evermore.
No, because what is there to whistleblow at?
Absolutely.
There was another really, I thought, painful moment. I think Sekulow was making this argument. He said the only people that you've heard from that have given any testimony are these unelected bureaucrats, right? They're not the voice of the people, blah, blah, blah. And as an unelected bureaucrat myself, I took a wee bit of umbrage. Here's the thing, folks. What do the vast majority of people think about politicians here in the United States?
Not
real well.
No.
They might be frustrated with government, but it is unelected, lifelong public servants, unelected bureaucrats, subject matter experts that keep the day-to-day wheels of government working because we don't have a personal axe to grind.
Until you're at the OMB, and then you got to get the guy from Wisconsin, and because you're saying Duffy's got to come in, and then you bring in your political hack to replace, the deep state.
And that's exactly right. I mean, again, I spend all day staying out of politics. It's why coming on the show is like therapy for me. I can finally say what I actually think about things. But people that have spent their life in public service, they are there literally to serve. Those are exactly the kind of people that you want whistleblowing, that you want stepping up and saying, whoa, this is way beyond anything I've ever seen that could ever be reasonably called
maybe
normal.
if you want a transparent, open, and honest republic, but if you're looking for someone to help grease the skids and line their own pockets in the meantime, you want people that can play ball.
Which means this has been asked in different ways by a number of the Democratic senators, which is, if this was all fine, then why did you cover up the aid hold? In other words, Donald Trump has held up aid to a number of different countries since he's come into office. Every time it's happened in all of these other circumstances, like there was aid that was going to Afghanistan, they held that up. What happens is when the executive branch is going to do that, they actually send a formal notification to Congress so that Congress can ratify it.
That's the old system.
Right.
That's the old system.
They explain why, and they explain the conditions that the country has to meet so that the aid can be released. In other words, the formal, in the nation's actual interest quid pro quo that happens with foreign aid, which Trump has exhibited that he knows how to do because he's done it before, they didn't do that here. The fact that they covered up the aid hold, the fact that this transcript ended up on the super secret server, the fact that he's literally gagged everyone in his administration, that he won't come... All of that is cover up, and you don't cover up something that is just perfectly good. That was a perfect phone call. You don't cover that up. If there was no there, it would have gone through the regular channel.
That's a pretty good impression, Maggie. I think you're challenging Crudy for best impression.
Thank you very much. Excellent.
Go ahead,
You know
Michael.
who's a real aid hold? Dominic.
Nice.
You know, I thought Schiff was, you know what I thought he was working himself up to, though, was a have you no decency, sir moment.
Why doesn't someone say that?
Rojo. Maybe in conclusion tomorrow, Maggie. But before we wrap up and throw it back to the Senate impeachment trial, or at least the questioning thereof, let's get back to the phones. 844-967-2789. Dick, you've been relatively patient. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Dick.
Real quick question. You know, a lot of these senators aren't even up for re-election until 2024, correct?
24 Republicans up for re-election in 2020, and approximately a third of the Senate up each 2-year elective cycle.
Right. Okay. Here's the thing.
24 of 53 is a big number, though.
Right. But did they not look at the midterms from 2018 and the bloodbath they took in the House?
Well, that was because they didn't repeal Obamacare. Dick, they're afraid of. They're afraid of the fact that the president of the United States is guilty as sin, and they're going to have to.
But guys, seriously, think about this. There's nothing to be afraid of. Stand up and do the right thing, because they took a bloodbath in the 2018 midterms, and they're liable to do the same thing.
That's what I'm hopeful for.
I actually think I'll find out when the next caller, and I'll announce it on the air, but there was an excellent article that I just read about the very real possibility, given the gerrymandering that's occurred, that we could be in a situation where the vast majority of Americans vote for a Democratic presidential candidate and the Republican wins. Again, but by a wider margin than Hillary's 3 million. Where the vast majority of Americans vote for Democratic representatives in the House, and yet the Republicans actually take the majority. And as is the case today, where there were far more votes cast for Democratic senators in the Senate, and yet Republican senators hold the majority of seats in the Senate. This is in large part about some of the imbalance and the unfairness that was baked into how House of Representatives seats are doled out. This is why trying to add a citizenship question to the 2020 census was such a huge push. This is why voter suppression works. This is why gerrymandering works. And so I always caution people, and Crudy and I have had this argument on air a few times, that sort of this assumption that it's so bad that, of course, there's going to be this huge uprising of voters and they're just going to crush Republicans. They obviously aren't seeing that in their own polling and statistical analysis. I think we need to be very grounded in reality. And again, this is one of those things about two sets of rules. Why is it that a Democratic candidate, in order to be legitimate, has to beat Donald Trump by like 12 million votes? Otherwise, like the brown shirts are coming and, there's going to be an armed resistance. Whereas he can literally cheat, use Facebook and Cambridge Analytica, suppress votes, put in all of this, what I think are unconstitutional voter suppression laws, coast to coast. And he just needs to win by one. He just needs that 270 electoral college votes, which just for
he
the
can't
record,
get there.
Just for the record, if Wisconsin votes Trump and Pennsylvania and Ohio go Dem, there is a scenario where Wisconsin gives Trump exactly the number of electoral college votes to hit 270.
Come on, Wisconsin.
I'm not kidding you.
They need it. Trump looks at the state of Wisconsin as a tipping point. He looks at the Milwaukee media market as the most important media market in the nation. And that's why we got 101.7 FM cooking with some fine politics. Doesn't look like the impeachment trial questions have started or restarted. So what's next, kids?
John Bolton.
Oh, here's one thought I did have, Maggie, in regards to the overvote or, Republicans needing, 50 plus one, electorally speaking, because obviously Trump lost to Hillary Clinton by about 2 million popular votes, but Obama had 70 million, right? If we'd come anywhere close to 70 million, we wouldn't be having this conversation about America turning to fascism. And ultimately, I saw someone talking trash on Facebook about one of my favored candidates. And I pointed out, Bernie Sanders didn't cost Hillary Clinton. 130 million people stayed home last time. Maggie, I cannot believe in my heart of hearts that more people are not going to be inspired. And I mean on both sides of the ledger, no doubt. There will be more Trump voters because of the impeachment of Donald J. Trump. They will be inspired. But I cannot believe there are not young people out there age 18 to 35 that were less involved in politics. Relatively speaking, we know young people are not usually driving to the polls. But my understanding is in the 2018 midterms, if you took the Gen X, the millennials, the 35 and under crowd, more of them voted than boomers.
Thank God.
Well, it's time. It's a bigger generation. They can have electoral impact. 844-967-2789. Tim from Racine. You called back, man. I want to ask you before, how you listening to us this evening?
I listen to you guys on the radio. I drive truck for a living. I'm a service-connected vet. And I have a couple of issues.
Before you lay them on us, Tim, how's the 101.7 FM signal sounding down in Racine tonight?
Actually, pretty clear.
Awesome, man. Now you.
Yeah.
I've gratified my questions. What are yours, sir?
Well, I guess my biggest issue is that if Schiff and them had such an ironclad case, then why was there all the secretiveness? Why didn't they just call them out on it right off the bat? And
you mean
of, all the secret meetings and everything? And we are in America. You're supposed to be innocent until proven
well,
guilty.
Tim, I mean,
the
different committees in Congress had to do the investigation because the very corrupt Attorney General Barr declined to do so. We didn't have in this case a special investigator like in Nixon or with Clinton, right? So someone had to do the groundwork, and that's what they did. They essentially convened a grand jury, and in those kinds of proceedings, and Maggie, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't get the representation. They're gathering the facts. So that they were doing the investigation at that point when you talk about the secret meeting in the basement and all that kind of stuff. Somebody had to do it because Barr wouldn't do it, and there was a whistleblower that was very concerning to lots of people who heard what that person was saying.
Yeah, but even under the whistleblower statutes, they're not guaranteed anonymity. They're guaranteed to not be retaliated against by losing their
Okay, hang on. Gotta bring some reality to bear here. First of all, there was no secret meetings. when you have someone that might have national secrets or access to classified information, and they are in an open mic deposition, you can't do that out in public. That's why they did a huge swath of the depositions in the House investigation in the SCIF, in the secure chamber. After they know what the but after they know what the witness is going to testify to, all of those witnesses then testified in public. So, let's dispense with the secret proceedings. That's just how this stuff is done.
My thing is, I watched all of them when they gave their depositions, and when they asked them point blank what law or statute was violated, they said none.
Okay, first of all, they're not lawyers. If you want to look up the U.S. bribery statute, that's illegal. It's also called an inchoate crime, which means it is complete. The criminal act is complete upon the ask. I don't think there are many U.S. attorneys in this country who would honestly tell you that they could not prove up each element of the United States Code bribery offense. Besides which, the framers did not require that you prove up beyond a reasonable doubt that the president committed a crime. An abuse of power is sufficient. That is part of what we're talking about here. If a blowjob in the White House is enough to get President Clinton impeached, this simply is beyond the pale. There was another issue that you brought up about the whistleblower. My first advice to you is stop watching Fox News. The reason that the whistleblower statute prohibits retaliation is because that would happen. Do you doubt that if Trump knew who this was, that he wouldn't go on a smear campaign, that this person's personal information would not be put online by every fringe right-wing troll, that this person's life wouldn't be at risk? So the distinction between that they can't be retaliated against is indistinguishable here as a matter of simple logic and being grounded in reality to the disclosure of this individual's name. That's why they won't give out his name. That's why you won't see him testify. The fact that he was a whistleblower has nothing to do with whether or not the charges against President Trump are true. What does the identity of the whistleblower have to do with the price of tea in China?
Well, that's what Hannity keeps railing on, so it gives people, something to look for, a red herring perhaps. Maggie,
when you put it like that, Maggie, you kind of dispel that whole argument.
Mm-hmm. Funny how that works.
I hate, the Enron. I know you took depositions in the Enron case, and what did they like to think of themselves? The smartest men in the room. The part I hate about you coming around, Maggie, I know I'm never the smartest guy in the room when you're in the room. 844-967-2789. Wisco Paul. Say hi to Maggie Dawn.
Hi, Maggie. Thanks for taking my call. You're right, Maggie. Maggie is so smart. That's how I had to call in tonight. Hey, well, you are. Right? I've watched this impeachment. I've listened to it on the radio. It's actually better to listen to it on the radio because you get a better handle of what's really going on. And then you don't have to listen to these talking heads on TV. But the more I watch this, I'm in my 60s now. I've never witnessed anything like this. And my question, Maggie, is how in the world, that's not if they're going to let this guy go. I don't think any of the Republicans are going to stand up against him. But he's going to be empowered. And I always vote in an election. And I think Wisconsin's elections are pretty fair. At least I think they are. But even if he were to lose, I just think he's going to leave. I don't think he's going to leave. Am I getting too freaked out over this, Maggie?
Never leave, Paul. Like even if he wins the election, he'll run or appoint himself a third term.
Well, if I'm anybody, I'm going to ask Maggie. It's okay. I'm the whistleblower. You can't release that name. You just can't do it. But if I'm anybody in the State Department or anybody that testified against this guy, and I don't know where this is going. I don't want to completely freak out. But I don't know if you're going to get rid of this guy. And,
given my experience working for Mr. Trump, I fear that if he loses the election in 2020, that there will never be a peaceful transition of power.
Yeah.
Well done, Brian.
That's the point, Paul. Trump has told us repeatedly, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave. He's actually said it multiple times. You see these people at these gun rights rallies, these alt-right, neo-Nazi, and they're ready to like storm the Bastille if Trump gets voted out. When it looked like before the 2016 election that he was going to get housed, what did Trump keep saying? It's a rigged election.
Yep.
It's rigged. It's all a big fix. Well, the fix was in. It was just fixed for him. Thank you, Russia. Thank you, Cambridge Analytica. Do you know this little fun fact, Paul? I'm going to get all stirred up into a lather after Rick from Racine. Do you know who was one of the seed money guys at the very founding of Cambridge Analytica?
The rich dude with the boat.
No.
Okay. Who?
Steve Bannon.
Oh, Bannon.
So go figure.
Steve Bannon from Breitbart.
Breitbart, Steve Bannon.
That's right. Okay, yep.
It's very obvious.
Very obvious. Helped fund Cambridge Analytica. Do you know what Cambridge Analytica initially did? They were government contractors. They worked all across the world, conducting basically psychological warfare. So they used all these psychological models to help swing, dissident uprising in, the Arab region from the Arab Spring. They were contracted all in Afghanistan. They wanted to arouse young men to help. Wow, that's a nice choice of words. They wanted to mobilize young men to fight against and resist the Taliban or ISIS. This is Cambridge Analytica. So their holding company, which I think was called like SCR or SCL Holdings, was a military contractor. That's where they perfected these models. They then effectively stole everyone's data from Facebook. And this wasn't like they modeled the whole country. What they did is they targeted places like Milwaukee.
They did.
Wisconsin, Ohio, Cleveland, Cincinnati, all of the big areas in Philadelphia. And they stoked both sides of the partisan divide. And they just spewed out misinformation. The Pope endorsing Trump? Here we go. I think we're coming back into the questioning this evening. It was really good to hear from you, Paul. Thanks for listening, hon.
Thanks, you, Paul.
Myself, Senators McConnell.
Can I get a witness?
Thank you.
We are now returning to the senator's question of the
from
House
Senator
managers, the
Grassley and the
impeachment
other
trial of
senators
Donald
is
Trump.
addressed to counsel for the president. During President Clinton's impeachment trial, he argued